Right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be diving into a treasure trove of Airbnb optimization secrets, and we're going to help you transform your listing from, well, drab to fab.
Hmm.
Running a successful Airbnb, well, it can sometimes feel like a never-ending quest for those elusive five-star reviews, you know?
Yeah.
But with little insider knowledge, we can crack the code to Airbnb success. And to really kick things off, let's talk about the Airbnb search engine algorithm. You know, that mysterious force behind the scenes that determines how visible your listing is to potential guests.
You don't need a computer science degree to understand this. It's much simpler than that. At its heart, the algorithm really just rewards hosts who make their listings attractive and easy to book, right?
Right.
And by understanding how it works, you can kind of game the system, ethically, of course,
Of course, yeah.
to get more bookings.
Yeah, and we've got a ton of practical tips straight from some experienced Airbnb hosts. We're going to cover everything from pricing strategies to photography tricks. So how does this all-powerful algorithm actually work?
Well, it's not magic, although sometimes it feels like it. It uses a very complex system to assess your listing based on a whole bunch of factors. And some of these are internal things you can directly control, like your pricing, the amenities you offer, the quality of your photos,
Right.
how flexible your cancellation policy is.
Right.
And then there's the external factors. These are things happening outside of Airbnb, like how your listing performs on social media, or if it's, featured on some popular travel blog. So it's kind of like the secret scorecard where every little detail counts, right?
Yeah.
But the cool thing is it's not as complicated as it might sound. It's kind of like you can imagine a simple +1, -1 system where each positive move you make, getting a glowing review or offering instant booking, that adds a point to your score. And then each negative move, like a canceled booking or a less than stellar review, takes a point away. And you know what? The higher your score, the higher you climb in those search results.
Makes sense.
So let's say you're getting those 5-star reviews. You're responding to inquiries within an hour.
Right.
And you're offering those amenities everybody wants, like high-speed Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Well, your listing is going to be more likely to pop up on that first page of the search results. That's right where the eager travelers are looking.
Right.
And it makes sense if you think about it from the guest's perspective. They want to find places that are easy to book, hassle-free, backed by rave reviews from fellow travelers.
Sure, yeah.
Now, within all of this, the algorithm is super focused on what are called KPIs, key performance indicators.
KPIs. Okay, that's starting to sound a little technical.
No, don't worry. We'll break it down.
Yeah.
One of the big ones is your click-through rate. That's how often people click on your listing when they see it in the search results, right?
Okay.
That's all about grabbing their attention.
Sure.
So that killer cover photo, it's crucial, right?
Right.
That's like the storefront to your Airbnb. You got to make it as enticing as possible.
Absolutely.
And then there's your conversion rate. That's how many of those clicks actually turn into bookings. This is where your photos, your description, your glowing reviews, they work their magic to convince people that your place is the AE1.
Gotcha.
Now, another important KPI is your bounce rate.
Bounce rate. Okay.
You can think of it like, somebody walks into a shop, takes a quick look around, and then walks back out.
Right.
High bounce rate means people are landing on your listing, but they're not finding what they want, so they bounce.
Oh, okay.
So if people are bouncing, it's probably time to look at your listing and see if there's anything that's turning people off. Maybe the photos aren't doing your place justice, or the description's not highlighting the best features.
Right.
It's like a feedback loop.
Yeah.
Now, there's also the average booking time. That's how long people spend on your listing before they click book now.
Right.
The faster, the better.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense, right. You want to make that booking process as smooth and as effortless as possible.
Totally.
All right.
So let's dive into those internal factors we can actually control, like those juicy tips, straight from seasoned hosts.
Right.
Okay. First up, let's talk about the age of your listing. Those brand new listings?
Yeah.
They get a little boost from Airbnb, kind of like a welcome gift. To help them gain traction,
It's like a grand opening sale.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen this firsthand, actually. My friend Sarah, she listed her charming cottage a few months ago, and she was flooded with bookings almost right away.
Mm-hmm.
But as a listing ages, it has to earn its stripes and build credibility to stay visible.
You can think of it like a popularity contest.
The more positive reviews you rack up, the more attractive your listing becomes to the guests and to the algorithm.
Right.
So if your listing is a bit older, you know what you can do to keep it competitive.
What's that?
Well, you can offer shorter stays,
Okay.
like like weekend getaways to rack up those reviews. It's a great way to gain traction, build that all-important social proof.
Okay.
You can also offer a slightly lower price than other listings in your area, or highlight those unique amenities, that make your place stand out, like a hot tub, a fire pit, maybe a game room.
Right, right.
Just think about what would make your listing irresistible.
Sure, yeah.
Another factor that impacts your visibility is the type of property.
Oh, okay.
Airbnb tends to favor entire homes, apartments over shared spaces, because people usually want more privacy when they're traveling.
Sure, that makes sense. But what if you're just renting out a room in your house?
Well, if you're sharing a space, you got to focus on creating a private, comfortable experience for your guests. You know, try to offer a private bathroom if you can. Clearly state who else they'll be sharing the space with.
Right.
If it's you, other guests, maybe a furry friend.
Okay.
And it might sound obvious, but double check your listing settings to make sure you haven't accidentally categorized your whole property as shared when you're really only renting out a room. A little oversight like that could impact your visibility.
Yeah, no, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that can make or break your listing, let's talk reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Reviews are like gold.
Reviews are the ultimate social proof.
Yeah.
And each 5-star review, that's a big plus to your score.
Okay.
And anything less than 4 stars, well,
Yeah.
So, guests rely heavily on those reviews to make their decisions. A steady stream of positive feedback is a game changer.
Wow.
So to get those glowing reviews, you really have to create an amazing guest experience from the moment they book to the moment they check out. Communication is key. Respond quickly, be helpful, accommodating. Make sure your listing is accurate, spotless, and then those little personal touches can make a big difference. A welcome basket, local recommendations, maybe a handwritten note. It can really elevate the experience and leave a lasting impression.
Right. And what about those not so great reviews? How can you minimize the damage if you do get one?
Well, sometimes, you can just ask the guest to revise the review if there was a misunderstanding.
Right.
Or if the review is unfair or violates the Airbnb policies, you can try to get it removed. But, even negative reviews, they can be learning opportunities,
Yeah.
right? So take the feedback to heart. See if there's anything that you can improve for your future guests.
Okay. So let's talk about location. Obviously, it's a key factor,
Right.
but it's not something you can change overnight.
Yeah.
Airbnb, they know where the hot spots are in your area, and they consider how close your property is.
Yeah.
People want to be where the action is.
Yeah.
So if you're lucky enough to be right in the middle of it, you've got a head start. But what if you're a little further out?
Well, then you got to get creative. Highlight the unique benefits of your location in your listing description. Maybe you're nestled in a peaceful neighborhood, perfect for relaxing, right?
Right.
Or maybe you're close to some hidden gems that most tourists don't even know about.
Okay.
And always mention the distance to public transportation. It's all about framing your location in the best possible light.
Okay.
And hey, even if your location isn't ideal, you can make up for it with those amenities, right? A hot tub, a private pool, maybe a home theater, a killer view. Those are the things that can make your listing a standout.
All right. Let's tackle pricing. This is where things get interesting.
Yeah.
So Airbnb is very guest-centric. So they encourage hosts to keep their listings as affordable as possible.
Which means the algorithm loves it when you lower your prices,
Right.
But as hosts, you got to find that sweet spot between attracting guests and making a profit, right?
Right. So how do we strike that balance?
Well, the key is to do your research, be strategic. Don't just blindly follow the prices of other listings, right?
Right.
Look at their reviews, their occupancy rates, get a sense of their overall performance. Don't base your pricing on that one listing with drool-worthy photos,
Yeah.
but 0 bookings, and a string of bad reviews.
Right.
A good starting point is to set your price maybe about 20% lower than comparable listings that are actually doing well.
Okay.
And then as you rack up those 5-star reviews, you can gradually increase your price, maybe by 5% for every 5 good reviews you get.
Okay, so start low to gain some traction and then gradually increase as you become more established.
Exactly.
What about those dynamic pricing tools? I know a lot of hosts swear by them.
Yeah, they can be a game changer, especially if you don't have the time to be watching those market trends and tweaking your prices all the time.
They're basically like having a personal pricing assistant working for you 24/7. They use algorithms to analyze supply and demand. They automatically adjust your pricing to try and maximize, your occupancy and your revenue.
So it really takes the guesswork out of pricing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they can be really helpful for navigating those seasonal fluctuations or special events that might cause, demand to spike in your area. Like if there's a big festival or a conference happening in your city, a dynamic pricing tool can automatically adjust your prices to reflect that increase.
Okay, so dynamic pricing tools can be really valuable. What about Airbnb's smart pricing? Isn't
Yeah,
that supposed to do something similar?
it is. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Airbnb's smart pricing.
Okay.
In my experience, it often undervalues listings, which can eat into your profits.
Right.
I much prefer those third-party dynamic pricing tools like Wheelhouse.
Okay.
They give you more control, more flexibility over your pricing strategy. Okay, so steer clear of smart pricing. Explore those third-party options.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's another pricing tip that can really make a difference. Weekly and monthly discounts.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great way to attract guests looking for longer stays. And it signals to the algorithm that you're flexible and accommodating. I usually recommend about a 5% discount for weekly stays and a 10% discount for monthly stays.
Yeah, even if you don't want to offer a full discount like that, don't leave those fields blank.
Oh, okay.
Even a small discount, like 1%, can be enough to catch the algorithm's eye.
Okay, now what about charging per person? I've always been
Yeah.
curious about this. What's the algorithm stance on that?
So Airbnb really wants hosts to offer all-inclusive pricing.
Okay.
They believe that it simplifies the booking process, makes things more transparent. So the algorithm is actually going to penalize you for adding extra charges per person.
Oh, really? Okay, so even if you're fine with one guest paying, a lower price than, let's say, 5 guests, it's better to just stick with a flat rate for the entire property.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you absolutely must charge extra for additional guests, make sure it's, only when it involves extra effort on your part.
Okay.
Like if you have to set up an extra sofa bed, provide linens, towels, and don't tack on those fees until you reach the maximum number of guests your listing can accommodate comfortably. So if your listing sleeps 4,
Yeah.
don't start adding extra charges until that 5th guest shows up.
Gotcha.
All right.
Now, let's talk about cancellations.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the algorithm hates cancellations?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It hates them.
yeah.
They disrupt the guest experience. It reflects poorly on Airbnb's reputation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like promising a fantastic party and then canceling at the last minute.
Yeah, right.
So do everything you can to avoid canceling bookings. Obviously, there are legitimate reasons sometimes. Emergencies, unexpected repairs. But if you have to cancel, make sure you do it directly through Airbnb. Don't just cancel on your own through the app or the website.
Why is that so important?
Well, because if you cancel yourself, Airbnb will actually block those dates on your calendar permanently.
Oh, wow.
And you won't be able to accept another booking for that period. But if you contact Airbnb directly, they might be able to work with you and guests to find a solution. They might even waive those cancellation penalties in certain situations.
Okay. Yeah.
So the takeaway here is communication is key. If you have to cancel, talk to Airbnb first.
Right.
Okay. And another tip to avoid cancellations is to just keep your calendar religiously up to date. The more accurate your calendar is, the less likely you are to double book or, find yourself in a situation where you have to cancel.
Okay.
Speaking of calendars, here's a little trick I learned. Even if you don't have any changes, block off a random date in your calendar and then unblock it. This signals to Airbnb that you're actively managing your calendar and that it's accurate.
That's a clever hack. It's all about sending those
Mhm.
positive signals.
Right. Now let's talk about instant booking. It can give your listing a big boost in visibility.
Right.
Airbnb loves it because it makes booking so smooth and seamless for guests. No waiting around for approvals, no back and forth messages, just instant gratification, right?
Right. But I know some hosts, they're a little hesitant to use instant booking.
Mm.
They want to be able to screen guests, right?
Mm.
So is there a way to have the best of both worlds?
You can absolutely still screen your guests, even with instant booking, by requiring a government-issued ID.
Oh, okay.
This way, you can verify their identity without sacrificing that all-important, convenience factor.
Right. Okay, so you can have your instant booking and your peace of mind, too.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk about amenities. What are some of the must-haves that the algorithm's looking for?
Well, Airbnb prioritizes certain amenities, especially those related to safety and comfort.
Sure.
So the essentials category, that's crucial. That's toilet paper, soap, towels, linens, pillows. Make sure you've checked all the boxes in that category.
Right, those are non-negotiables, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then next up is home safety amenities. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors,
Source, yeah.
a fire extinguisher, a first aid kit. These are must-haves,
Yeah.
especially for families traveling with children. Make sure they're working, they're visible. And you know what? Don't forget to check that amenities section in your listing regularly to see if Airbnb's added any new requirements.
Right.
They're always updating their standards to make sure people are safe and comfortable.
Right. So it's like a continuous improvement process,
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we've got essentials, safety, internet. But what about all those other amenities that can really elevate a listing, hot tubs, fireplaces, pools. Do those actually make a difference in your ranking?
Absolutely. Every amenity you offer adds a plus to your score. Think of it this way. The more boxes you check, the more appealing your listing becomes to a wider range of people. So just go through that amenities list carefully, Check everything that applies to your property. Don't be shy about showing off what you have to offer.
Right. Okay.
And while you're at it, don't forget those all-important safety card details, with the local emergency numbers.
Yeah, safety should always be a top priority. Now let's dive into cancellation policy. What does the algorithm favor here?
Flexibility.
Okay.
You guessed it. The algorithm loves flexible cancellation policies because they make guests feel more comfortable. They know they can change their plans without penalty.
Right.
But as hosts, we also need to protect ourselves from those last-minute cancellations, right?
Right.
That can really disrupt your schedule, disrupt your income.
Sure.
So how do you find the balance?
Yeah, how do you do that?
A smart strategy is to start with a flexible cancellation policy when your listing's brand new. This will help you get those bookings, build those reviews. Then as your listing gains traction and you get more established, you can shift to a moderate policy.
Okay.
So you're basically earning the right to be, a bit stricter with your cancellation policy as you build a reputation. Now, a strict cancellation policy,
Okay.
that's only advisable in certain scenarios, like if you're offering a really low price
All right.
or your property's in such high demand that you're confident you can fill those dates, even with a strict policy.
Right.
But in most cases, I recommend sticking with a flexible or moderate policy. That's going to keep the algorithm happy, keep your guests happy.
So flexibility is key, at least in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What about how far in advance should we open our calendars for bookings?
Well, the more available nights you have in your calendar, the more appealing it is to the algorithm. Right.
Yeah.
I generally recommend, open your calendar at least a year in advance. This shows Airbnb you're serious about hosting. You're committed to providing that availability.
Makes sense.
Plus, it gives you a better chance of securing those longer-term bookings. They can be a great source of stable income.
Okay, yeah. What about minimum stay requirements?
Yeah.
I have a feeling the algorithm's not a big fan of those.
You're right. It's not. The shorter the minimum stay, the more flexible you are.
Right.
The more love from the algorithm you're going to get. Of course, you need to set a minimum stay that makes sense for your property, your business model.
Right.
But if you can offer shorter stays, even just for, certain periods, it can boost your visibility.
Okay, so flexibility, again, is the name of the game when it comes to cancellation policy and minimum stay requirements.
Mm-hmm.
What about response time?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's important.
Airbnb wants hosts to be super responsive to inquiries.
And the faster you reply, the better. It's kind of like a race against the clock,
Okay.
They start timing as soon as a guest sends that inquiry. So the quicker you get back to them, the more points you rack up. So even if you can't answer their questions right away, at least send a quick message acknowledging their inquiry.
Okay.
Let them know you'll get back to them.
Okay.
Even something simple, like, "Hi there, thanks for your message, I'll get back to you shortly," can make a big difference. It shows the algorithm that you're engaged, you're attentive.
So you're on top of things.
Exactly.
Cool.
Now, what about pre-approving inquiries?
Yeah.
Does that have an impact?
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Pre-approving inquiries can be beneficial, especially if you want to accept the booking, right? It signals to the algorithm that you're eager to host, you're not going to be picky or difficult.
Right.
Now, if you get an inquiry and you're not sure if you want to accept it yet,
Yeah.
Well, you can always send a message asking for more information, clarify some details before you make a decision.
Right. Okay.
And if you know you're not going to accept, it's better to politely decline it than to let it expire.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Well, because letting inquiries expire can hurt your ranking. It gives the impression that you're not, you know, actively managing your listing or that you're not interested in hosting.
Right. Gotcha. So be proactive,
Right.
with those inquiries, pre-approve them, decline them, or at least engage with the guest to keep the conversation flowing.
Exactly. Now, talk about becoming a verified host. It's all about building trust, right?
Yeah.
Airbnb wants to make sure hosts are who they say they are,
Right.
and that they're committed to providing a safe and positive experience for guests. So they encourage hosts to verify their identity, upload an ID, connect social media accounts, all that.
Right.
It just adds another layer of legitimacy to your listing. It puts people at ease.
Okay. That makes sense.
Let's talk about security deposits.
Mm.
I know some hosts, they're hesitant to set a high deposit. They're afraid it'll scare people away.
Right. Right.
Airbnb prefers hosts to set reasonable deposits, ones that are fair to both parties.
Okay.
A good rule of thumb is to set a deposit that's equal to, 3 or 4 nights of your average nightly rate. And, round it to the nearest $50 to make it look nice and clean.
Okay.
A reasonable deposit is key. And it's important to remember that the security deposit is there to cover, accidental damage, not to deter guests. And if you do have, expensive furnishings or anything, maybe try to keep them out of reach, store them away during bookings.
Right. That's a good idea. It's good to remind ourselves that Airbnb has that host guarantee program that provides some coverage for damage in certain situations. So you're not completely on your own if something happens. Now, let's switch gears a little and talk about those external factors that can have an impact on your listing. Let's start with wish lists.
Oh, yeah, wish lists.
They're still important, right? Even though Airbnb got rid of the public wish list count a while back.
They are. They're a powerful tool for boosting your visibility.
Right.
Airbnb still tracks this data behind the scenes.
Okay.
And when someone adds your listing to their wish list, it's like a virtual thumbs up.
Yeah.
It tells the algorithm that your property is desirable.
Okay.
That people are interested in it.
Right.
So even though guests can't see how many people have wish listed your property, it's still a valuable metric for Airbnb.
So encourage your friends, family, and past guests to add your listing. It's a simple way to give it a little nudge in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, we've talked about all these behind the scenes factors that can influence your ranking, but let's talk about the look and feel of your listing.
Right.
Those elements that can really make it stand out.
Sure.
So the way you present your listing is crucial. It's all about attracting those clicks.
Okay.
And then convincing those clickers to actually book. Think of it like staging a house for sale, right?
Right.
You want to highlight those best features, make it visually appealing, draw potential buyers in.
Makes sense. Okay.
Now let's start with those all-important photos.
Okay.
What are some tips for choosing photos that will make guests drool and hit book now?
Well, your cover photo, that's your first impression.
Right.
It's got to be eye-catching, enticing, a showstopper that just makes people want to see more. Right.
Right.
You want to choose a photo that showcases the best feature of your property.
Okay.
Maybe it's a breathtaking view, a cozy fireplace, a stylish bedroom. Whatever makes your place special, put it front and center.
Okay. What if you have a lot of great features?
Right.
How do you just pick one for that cover photo? Well, think about what appeals to your target audience, right? If you're trying to attract families, maybe choose a photo that shows, a spacious living area, a backyard with a play set. Or if you're targeting couples, maybe choose something that highlights more romantic setting, like a fireplace or a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
It's all about knowing your ideal guest and what they're looking for. And don't be afraid to experiment with different cover photos. See what performs best, right?
Right.
You can track your click-through rate in your dashboard, see which photos are getting the most action.
So it's like A/B testing for your Airbnb.
Exactly.
Okay, so once you've got that cover photo down, let's talk about the other photos. How many should we include? What should they show?
You want to aim for at least 20 high-quality photos.
Okay.
That really give a virtual tour of your property. Show all the areas inside and out, living room, kitchen, bedrooms, bathrooms, any outdoor spaces.
Okay.
Maybe even some photos of the neighborhood. Give a sense of place. And pay close attention to the order of your photos.
Okay.
The first four are especially important because they appear in the preview alongside your cover photo.
Oh, okay.
So choose those first four strategically. I usually recommend one exterior photo, one living room, one bedroom, and one bathroom. This gives potential guests, a quick overview of the key areas, and it helps them decide if it's right for them. Make sure your photos are well lit, they're in focus, and they accurately represent the property.
Sure.
Set realistic expectations for people. Don't use filters. Don't edit them too heavily.
Right.
People appreciate authenticity.
Sure. Yeah, keep it real.
Exactly. And make sure your photos are up to date.
Right.
If you've redecorated or got new furniture, make sure to update those photos.
That's important, yeah. You don't want guests to show up and
You don't want guests to show up and be surprised, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, let's talk about that listing description. How do we write a description that will really capture guests' attention and make them want to hit that book now button?
Well, you want to start with a catchy and unique title, something that highlights those key selling points.
Okay.
And here's a little trick. Use special characters,
Yeah.
to make it stand out in those search results.
Oh, okay.
Like emojis, symbols, that kind of thing.
I like that. Yeah, it's all about making your listing pop. Wow.
Exactly. And keep your title concise, no more than 50 characters so it doesn't get cut off,
Okay.
in those results. Now, for the rest of the description, use bullet points.
Okay.
Highlight those key features, those amenities. It makes it easy for people to scan and digest the information quickly.
Bullet points are a lifesaver because nobody wants to read a wall of text.
Exactly. And focus on the benefits of your property, not just the features.
Yeah.
So instead of saying this house has 3 bedrooms, you might say, this spacious house is perfect for families or groups of friends.
Right. So it's all about painting a picture, helping them imagine themselves enjoying your space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to add a personal touch to that description. Share a little bit about yourself,
Okay.
your neighborhood,
Right.
what you love about hosting.
Yeah, it makes it more authentic and welcoming, like you're inviting people into your world.
Exactly. And one last tip. Highlight what matters most to guests in your area.
Okay.
If you're in a beach town, emphasize that proximity to the ocean. If you're in a city, mention nearby attractions, public transportation, that kind of thing. It's all about tailoring your description to your audience.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's move on to house rules.
Okay.
Aren't those just a bunch of boring legal jargon?
Well, they can be.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be.
Okay.
House rules are a chance to set clear expectations for your guests, right?
Oh.
And ensure that everybody has a smooth and enjoyable stay.
Okay. So how do we write house rules that are both informative and welcoming?
Well, start by thinking about, the things that are important to you as a host.
Okay.
Maybe it's noise levels, smoking, pets, parties, that kind of thing.
Right.
Once you've identified those priorities, just state your rules clearly in concise, easy to understand language.
Okay.
Avoid that jargon or overly formal language.
No legalese.
Right. And try to frame your rules in a positive light.
Okay.
So instead of saying, no parties allowed, you could say, we ask guests to respect their neighbors and keep the noise level down after 10 p.m.
Yeah, it's a much more friendly and approachable way to say it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to, to add a little personality to those house rules,
Okay.
You could even include a section called, tips for enjoying your stay,
Right.
where you share local recommendations or suggestions for things to do.
Oh, I like that. It's almost like adding a little concierge service to your
Yes.
listing,
Exactly. And remember, the goal is just to create that positive and respectful environment
Right.
for you and your guests. So we've covered photos, descriptions, house rules, but what other elements of our listing should we be thinking about?
Yeah.
Well, another important element is your host profile. This is your chance to introduce yourself.
Okay.
Let them know a little bit about who you are, what you love about hosting. It's kind of like your Airbnb resume.
Right.
So take some time to craft a compelling profile that highlights your best qualities as a host.
Okay, so what kind of information should we include?
Share a bit about your background, your interests, why you enjoy hosting.
Okay.
Mention any languages you speak. Maybe any special amenities or services you offer, anything that makes you stand out.
Okay.
It's all about, showcasing your personality and your hospitality style.
Right.
And don't forget to include a photo of yourself. Right.
A friendly, smiling face can go a long way in building trust. Make guests feel comfortable booking with you.
Right. So we've got our cover photo, our listing photos, description, our house rules, our host profile. Is there anything else we should be thinking about?
One last thing. Just be authentic. Be genuine.
Yeah.
Guests can spot a fake a mile away.
Right.
So just be yourself. Be honest. Let your passion for hosting shine through.
Yeah, that's good advice. So we've covered a lot today, but I know there's always more to learn when it comes to this Airbnb optimization. It's always evolving. The algorithm's always being updated. So it's important to stay informed and adapt your strategies as needed. So how do we stay ahead of the curve?
Well, a few things. Subscribe to the Airbnb blog and newsletter. Stay up to date on all the latest news and announcements.
Okay, good idea.
Follow industry experts on social media, right?
Right.
There's a lot of great resources out there, podcasts, blogs, online forums. So it's all about networking and learning from others.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment with different strategies, see what works best for you.
Yeah. That's the beauty of Airbnb. There's always room for innovation and creativity.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on, let's talk about those external factors. How can we promote our listings off Airbnb to boost our visibility, attract more bookings?
Yeah, that's a great question. Promoting your listing off Airbnb can be really effective in reaching a wider audience. You can drive more traffic to your listing that way.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, social media is a great place.
Okay.
Create a Facebook page,
Right.
an Instagram account, share photos, videos, updates.
So it's like creating a mini brand for your Airbnb.
Exactly. And use those relevant hashtags.
Okay.
Reach a wider audience.
Okay.
You can even run social media ads to target specific demographics, right?
Okay.
So if you're trying to attract families, you can target parents with young children. Another strategy is to create a website or a blog, for your listing.
Okay.
This gives you more control over your content.
Right.
You can share more detailed information
Okay.
about your property, the area. It's kind of like having your own little online brochure.
Makes sense.
And you can use your website to collect email addresses from potential guests.
Okay.
So you can stay in touch, promote special offers, events.
So it's all about building relationships and staying top of mind.
Exactly. Now, consider listing your property on other platforms like Vibo or Booking.com.
Okay.
This helps you diversify your bookings.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Exactly. And you can also leverage local tourism, websites, blogs,
Right.
Contact them, see if they're interested in featuring your listing.
So making those connections, getting the word out.
Exactly. And one last tip for promoting off Airbnb: create a unique brand for your property.
Okay.
Give it a catchy name, create a logo.
I like that. Yeah, standing out from the crowd.
Exactly, yeah. Develop a consistent visual style, for your marketing.
Correct.
So if you're renting out, a cozy cabin in the woods, you might call it the Cozy Bear Cabin, right?
Right.
And use a logo with a bear and some trees, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
And use that branding consistently across your online and offline marketing efforts.
So your website, your social media, business cards, even your welcome basket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The goal is to create a memorable brand that people will associate with good experiences. Now, we've talked about attracting guests, boosting bookings, but what about the financial side?
Right.
How do you maximize those profits?
Yeah. How do we do that?
Well, there are a few key strategies you can use
Okay.
to increase your revenue and improve your bottom line.
Okay. Let's hear them.
One of the most important is to track your expenses carefully.
Okay.
This means everything, cleaning fees, utilities, mortgage payments, property taxes, everything.
Right.
So create a spreadsheet or use a budgeting app to track it all.
Right.
Right. Once you have a clear understanding of your expenses, you can set your pricing accordingly.
So you're not just picking numbers out of a hat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you're charging enough to cover those costs
Sure.
and make a profit.
Right.
Okay. So track those expenses and price accordingly. Now, consider offering additional services or amenities for a fee, things like airport transportation,
Okay.
grocery delivery, maybe in-home chef services. It's like creating that mini hotel experience,
Right.
within your Airbnb.
Yeah.
These add-on services can be a great way to boost revenue, provide extra value to your guests.
Okay. Add-on services. Good idea. What else?
Think about offering discounts for longer stays, right?
Okay.
This can help you attract guests who are looking for that more affordable option. And it can also help you, fill those shoulder season dates.
Right. So if you're in, let's say, a beach town, you could offer a discount for stays during the off season.
Exactly.
When the weather's still nice, but the crowds are smaller.
Right. And you can also offer discounts for last-minute bookings,
Okay.
to fill those gaps in your calendar. It's all about being flexible and creative with your pricing.
Okay. Now I know a lot of hosts are interested in using those dynamic pricing tools
Mm-hmm.
to kind of automate their pricing.
Right.
What are your thoughts on those?
Oh, they can be a lifesaver.
Okay.
Especially if you don't have time to be constantly monitoring those market trends, adjusting your prices.
Sure.
They're like having a personal pricing assistant working for you 24/7.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They use algorithms to analyze supply and demand. They automatically adjust your pricing, try to maximize your occupancy and your revenue.
Okay, so they take the guesswork out of pricing, which can be a huge time saver.
Exactly. Yeah. And they can be particularly useful, for those seasonal fluctuations or those special events that might cause that demand to spike. Like, if there's a big festival in town or a conference, a dynamic pricing tool can automatically adjust your prices to reflect that.
Okay, so so dynamic pricing tools can be really valuable, but what about Airbnb's smart pricing tool?
Yeah.
Isn't that supposed to do something
Yeah,
similar?
it is, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan.
Okay.
In my experience, it often undervalues listings, and that can eat into your profits. I much prefer those third-party dynamic pricing tools,
Okay.
like Wheelhouse, that give you more control and flexibility.
Okay, so steer clear of smart pricing.
Yeah.
Explore those third-party options.
Right.
Okay. Now let's talk about minimizing expenses.
Yeah.
We talked about tracking expenses earlier, but what are some ways to actually reduce costs?
Okay, well, one of the biggest expenses is cleaning fees.
Yeah, those can really add up, especially if you're hosting a lot.
They can, yeah.
Yeah.
So look for ways to streamline your cleaning process, Maybe hire a professional cleaning service.
Right.
Maybe invest in some time-saving tools.
Right. Or if you're doing the cleaning yourself, maybe create a checklist
Yeah.
so you don't waste any time or effort.
Exactly. A checklist can keep you organized, efficient.
Yeah.
Another way to minimize expenses is just to be energy efficient.
Right.
Install LED light bulbs, use a programmable thermostat, make sure those appliances are Energy Star rated.
Right. Those are all good ideas.
Yeah, and they're good for the environment too.
Yeah.
And finally, don't be afraid to negotiate with your suppliers.
Okay.
You might be able to get a better rate on your cleaning supplies, your linens, even your internet service. If you shop around, ask for a discount.
Right. So be a savvy business owner.
Exactly. Now let's wrap up this segment with a few thoughts on maximizing those profits.
Okay. What's the key takeaway?
The key takeaway is that maximizing your profits is all about finding that balance between your revenue and your expenses. It's not just about increasing your prices. It's also about, being mindful of your costs and looking for those ways to reduce them.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's really about being strategic
It is.
and creative.
It is. Now, before we move on, let's talk about, I think, one of the most rewarding aspects of being a host is, providing those exceptional guest experiences.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, happy guests. That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
Positive reviews, repeat bookings, that's the goal. So how do you go above and beyond?
Yeah. How do we make our guests feel truly welcome and appreciated?
Well, one of the best ways is to personalize their stay.
Okay.
This could include things like, leaving a welcome basket with some local treats,
Okay.
providing personalized recommendations.
Right.
Maybe even just taking time to chat with them about their interests.
Yeah. Those little touches can really make a difference.
They can, yeah.
Yeah. It shows them that you care.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not just treating them like another transaction.
Exactly. And these personal touches, they don't have to be expensive or time-consuming.
Right.
It's the thought that counts.
Totally. Yeah. What other tips do you have for creating a a memorable experience for guests?
Well, make sure your property is clean, it's comfortable, well stocked with everything they might need.
Right, so fresh linens, fluffy towels,
Exactly.
extra blankets, all those toiletries.
Mm-hmm. And make sure your appliances are working, that your internet is reliable.
Right.
Those are the basics, but they're important.
Right, yeah, those are the things that make people feel comfortable.
Exactly. And pay attention to those little details. Make sure the
Yeah.
lighting's good, temperature's comfortable,
Yeah.
that there are places for guests to just relax and unwind.
Right.
Think about the things that would make you feel at home in a new place.
Right, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
And be responsive to your guests' needs.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
if they have any questions, any concerns, just address them promptly and professionally.
Communication is key.
It is. A quick response can make a world of difference.
Totally.
And finally, encourage your guests to leave reviews.
Right, right. Reviews are so important
Yeah.
for building that social proof, attracting those new guests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
A steady stream of those positive reviews can really boost your visibility.
absolutely. So make it easy for people to leave those reviews.
Right?
Maybe even offer a small incentive,
Yeah.
a little discount on their next stay.
Exactly. Now, we've covered so much today from optimizing your listing to maximizing profits, providing those amazing guest experiences.
Right. Right.
What are some key takeaways?
Yeah, what should our listeners remember?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that being a successful Airbnb host is about finding the right balance between being business savvy,
Okay.
and just being genuinely hospitable.
Right, so it's about understanding the algorithm,
Yeah.
using it to your advantage, but it's also about creating that welcoming, memorable experience for your guests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your business goals, align with your desire to provide amazing hospitality.
Right, and it's about always learning and adapting.
Mm-hmm. To,
Yeah.
to this ever-changing world.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Of Airbnb.
Okay, great advice. So we're going to wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts and a call to action. Stay tuned.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
Unpacking the secrets to an Airbnb listing that really shines.
It's been quite the journey.
Through the inner workings of that algorithm, the art of crafting a killer listing, and the importance of those special touches that create a memorable guest experience.
Right.
So before we wrap things up, let's recap some of those golden nuggets.
Okay.
And leave you with with something to ponder.
Okay.
Remember, the algorithm isn't your enemy. It's more like a roadmap to success. By understanding how it works, you can use it to attract more guests, boost those bookings.
Exactly. And guest convenience and satisfaction are at the heart of it all.
Mm-hmm.
The algorithm loves listings that are easy to book hassle-free
Right.
and deliver a positive experience from start to finish.
So put yourself in the guest's shoes. What would make you want to book a listing?
Yeah.
What kind of experience would you be hoping for?
Those are great questions to ask yourself
Mm-hmm.
as you're putting your listing together.
And remember, those visuals are key.
Right.
Your photos are your first impression.
They are.
So make them count. Showcase the best features of your property. Use high-quality images. And don't forget to highlight those special details that make your listing unique.
Right.
Your listing description, that's your chance to really weave a story.
Yeah.
Highlight the benefits of your property. Connect with those potential guests.
Yeah.
Make it engaging, make it informative, and infuse it with your own unique hosting style.
And those little extras, those can make a world of difference.
It can.
A welcome basket with local treats,
Mm-hmm.
personalized recommendations, a handwritten note.
It's all about the thoughtfulness. It
Yeah.
shows your guests that you care.
Right. It really elevates the experience and creates those warm, fuzzy feelings that lead to those rave reviews.
Exactly. And remember, optimizing your Airbnb listing, it's a journey.
It is.
It's not a one-time task.
Right.
So stay up to date on those best practices.
Right.
Keep an eye on your KPIs. Constantly look for ways to improve and evolve.
Right.
Don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things. See what works for you.
Right. That's the beauty of Airbnb. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Absolutely. Each listing, each host is unique.
Mm.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
What is it that makes your listing special?
Yeah.
What's that unique selling point that will make guests choose you over all the others?
Yeah. Is it a stunning view?
Yeah.
Is it a cozy fireplace? your proximity to the beach,
Right.
your pet-friendly policy,
Yeah.
maybe your collection of board games or your passion for sharing local history.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, embrace it,
Right.
showcase it, and let it shine through in your listing.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the best way to optimize your listing is to be authentically, you let your personality, your passion for hosting shine through.
Right. And remember, we're all on this journey together.
Mm.
So share your tips, your successes, your challenges with the community. We can all learn from each other and help each other thrive.
Absolutely. Collaboration, community are key.
Right.
We're all in this together. We are.
And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Airbnb optimization. We hope you've gained some valuable insights that will help you take your hosting to the next level.
Absolutely happy hosting, everyone.
Happy hosting.